Well, welcome. I'm Phil Scarpelli. I'm the CEO of Brevard Family Partnership, the lead agency and child welfare organization of Brevard County. And we're filming today in my home. And I was very intentional about inviting some very special people in my life to be a part of a series of talks that will hopefully enlighten viewers and engage each other on foster care, foster youth, and the child welfare system as it is today. I think it's really important that we be a voice of reality about where we're at as a community and where we are as a family of people. I mean, I really do look at you all as a part of an extension of my family through foster care and my commitment to better serving foster youth and the families, foster families, and the professionals that work within this industry. Today, I have with me Angela, the director of our youth council here locally, and we have some of our young individuals who have volunteered their time, which I'm very grateful that you take the time out of your busy schedules to join us in a series of discussions that I really wanted to be very organic and free-flowing, because I believe that there is a lot that can be made aware to viewers everywhere about who foster youth are, what's their journey been like, who are the people that work with them through their journey, and who are the professionals that are charged with the responsibility of safety, well-being, and permanency for kids that are in the system, aging out of the system, and coming into the system, quite frankly. So, with that said, I'd like to introduce my special guests.
My name is Ashley Balser. I am 23 years old. Got adopted at the age of 4, went back into the system at 16, aged out at 22. So my foster care journey has been long and honestly amazing. I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to give some of my experience and answer some questions or just guide a little bit about what our perspective looks like on our end of the foster care system, since we really actually go through it and see it firsthand.
Thank you. John?
Sure. My name is John Watson. I am 21, and I also grew up in the child welfare system of Brevard County from about 13 until 18. So I spent about 5.5 years in care. And since then, I've been working with Angela and Phil, as well as the rest of my peers, with Brevard Youth Leadership Council. Through that, I've had many amazing opportunities, such as interning up in Tallahassee, and also being able to join a statewide organization called One Voice Impact, interested in replicating the council model across the state.
Thank you, John. Wes?
I'm Wesley. I'm 22 years old. I went into the foster care system when I was 5 years old. I got out when I was 9, and then I went back in at 10. And then I got adopted at 12. Just like John, I've just kind of been interacting with you and Angela and some other organizations and just making the best out of what I got.
Thank you. Excellent. And Angela?
Yeah, Angela Oliver-Burgess. I'm the founder of the organization Smile for Budgie, in honor of my late husband, and great pleasure and honor to be working with Phil and all the amazing people of BFP in helping to establish one of the first youth leadership councils in the state of Florida. It's been such an honor to work among these amazing young leaders that we're going to talk to today, but so many others, right, throughout the county. This is going to be a great opportunity to hear from you all and to learn more about the importance of youth voice in helping to change the foster care system. It's great to be here.
What's interesting is I've asked you here today, and we've talked about it coming together about we're going to be speaking very transparently. Here I am, 30 years in this industry, very committed and very dedicated, but very, very humble, because there's one thing that I don't share with all of you. That is, I've never walked in your shoes. And I think that's an important thing for me to remember, even as a leader. I think being a leader in the industry is very, very privileged of an opportunity. But I've told you guys this, John, you probably heard me say this many a time, when you're always so grateful and gracious to say, thank you for this or that. And I say, but I thank you because you opened my eyes to understanding better the plight of foster youth, children, youth, and those of you who are now adults, quite frankly. But, with that said, what is something, Ashley, you want to share that people probably don't know about foster youth?
Whether you're in a setting as in school or you're in the setting of a foster home or a group home, there's a lot of things that people do not know about foster youth. One of the things that people forget to keep in mind is that we are not used to change. We just got removed from our family, removed from the environment that we're comfortable in. We just got removed from all of our friends. We just got removed from all of our comfortability. So it's going to be rough the first week, trying to get to know everybody, trying to get to know our own space, our own room, trying to get to know the new house, the new school and everything. But usually with the aid of social workers and caseworkers, or TCMs also, and with the aid of other adults who advocate for us, through our journey, we'll be able to better deal with situations like that. But I think it's just very thoughtful for the foster parents and for the case managers and everybody. When you take a new case, when you're introduced to a new kid, it's probably their first time.
Yeah.
So you take it easy.
Right.
Take it easy for the.
That's great advice. That's wonderful. John, if you think about change, which is part of life in general, but probably magnified when you go through foster care, what helped you through change?
I think really having consistent people, which of course is very difficult in this field. Having a support system that's there, it's not the same as having your own family, as Ashley said. One of the most important mentors in my life, she says that foster youth are just youth, but with a steeper climb. So not being able to have the same support system afforded to, traditional families is difficult, but it's not to say that they're damaged or they're, unworthy of the same kind of love. Just being able to have consistent group of individuals that are there for you, I think is something that's very important. And, that's why with the Brevard Youth Leadership Council, we push so much for having mentors and supportive foster families to back up these youth.
You think about the kind of people that have influenced you guys and supported you. Wes, what are the attributes or the things that we want to see in people who step up to working with youth?
I would say the number one attribute would probably be self-love. People who are able to identify their own version of love and be able to say that their love is different than somebody else's, and recognize that and understand that you're going to have a person come into your home that needs their own type of love, and have the ability to recognize that and look at that, because that's everyone. So,
well, that's deep. I appreciate that. So, Angela, how did you get into this?
Yeah.
If people knew your resume, they'd be so in awe of how much you've accomplished in your lifetime. And here you are leading a youth initiative and a council of members that are, these are representatives of just a few of the many, right? Yeah. So how did you get involved?
Yeah, well, started a long time ago, but, just all around the world, there's so many children and youth who are, experience violence. And so I think it's really important that, how to work to ensure that no child has to live with violence, and then how to support them for their own growth, that every young person deserves the opportunity for all opportunities and to truly thrive. We really say to truly thrive. And, we want to ensure that here in our own local community. I've done this work around the world, but really you have to bring it back and do it locally. And so it was such an honor to meet with BFP, and you all came on board, and we're like, partnership, right? Community partnerships are essential because you can't do this alone. We need everybody, our case managers, our guardians, teachers. Everybody can make a difference in a young person's life. And I loved everything that you said, that consistent support is essential. And sometimes we don't know what to do, but sometimes just being there, being present. And we always say, meet the young person where they are. Just meet them where they are. And Ashley and I talk about this all the time, right? Just sitting and listening and showing that you really, truly care can make a huge difference in a young person's life. And also we need to have the youth voice. That's why it's so great to be working with you all to really give that platform for their voices to be heard. Because like you said, we didn't go through the system of care. So yes, we want to be allies and try to make a true change, but we don't have those experiences. And so we need to let the youth have the voice, but to be leaders, to make decisions that impact them, they should be in the forefront making those changes.
Yeah, that's very true. John, what do you think about why you got involved, why this thing has grown so, and what do you hope the impact is going to be about? Maybe you can explain a little bit more about what Youth Voice is for people who may not be aware.
Sure, yeah. Kind of going back off of what Angela talked about with her organization, about, 4 years ago, Angela approached a group of youth in Brevard County with her organization, Smile for Budgie, in the interest of creating youth council. So it was myself amongst 9 of my other peers who were in that group, I believe. And we went through a 6-month training program to kind of equip us and educate us on how to be young leaders and advocate for ourselves as well as for others. And after that 6-month training program, the Brevard Youth Leadership Council was launched. Since then, we've created several different priority goals, from increasing the number of supportive foster parents to providing life skills to young adults in and out of the system. And then, of course, something that's very near and dear to my heart is providing mentors with not just connections for your time and care, but lifelong connections that last long after you leave. I just got involved because I was approached by somebody like Angela who had such great experience and intention to create a change in their local area. And it was just something very interesting to me and very attractive. So I've been involved since then, and, I wouldn't give it up for the world. And I think this is what I want to do with my career. So, really had amazing opportunities to meet, great youth like Ashley and Wes and others as well.
Yeah. I remember you talk about like 4 years ago, this thing blossomed, and I came on board just after that. It was not too far after that. And my first attendance at one of the council meetings was an amazing experience. It was extremely enlightening. It was very, very humbling. But I was so impressed with how well the youth were articulating their perception of the system and what's good about it, what's challenged about it, what needs to happen in the future, and to take a position of commitment as individuals, but then as a council to get the word out there. And I think that's wonderful. And people are listening. Mm-hmm. And for those who are watching our discussion, I really want to celebrate something that's amazing, is the fact that the Brevard Youth Council is a pinnacle of attention for the state of Florida's initiative to grow more of these councils, so have more individuals like you speaking on behalf of the hundreds of youth that are aging out of foster care, and then the thousands that remain in foster care. I don't know if you appreciate the gravity and significance that you're making in history. Because you know what? 30 years ago when I started this industry, this wasn't happening. This wasn't happening. And here we are today to talk about that. Wes and I have had many a conversation, deep conversations. He's such an introspective and reflective individual. I'm profoundly touched by, your willing to share. When we talk about communities of people who step up to the calling of fostering kids and youth, what do you think people need to know that is very, very necessary if you're thinking about a commitment to fostering children for youth who've come in and have dealt with change, trauma, and the unknown of tomorrow? What do you think you want to see in the foster parents of tomorrow?
I would say acknowledge that they're foster children, yes, but they are people that are coming into your home, and they simply need respect and understanding. Earlier, Angela said meet them where they are, but I think that meeting them where they are isn't necessarily just sitting with them. And in my opinion, I believe that it's being able to relate to that specific emotion that they're going through. Foster kids are not perfect. They're just expressing the best way that they can, the only way that they know how. Just being involved in that and looking at that and trying to see yourself in them. If you're getting angry at something they're doing you don't understand, the odds are it's something that bothers you on the inside. Mm-hmm. And it's something you need to resolve. And if by you resolving that and you finding the issue as the adult, as the person who brought them into your home, not to have them or have a child, but to give them an environment to learn, then that relationship will naturally sprout.
Yeah. Thank you. Who else in your journey through foster care was significant in building these relationships? You brought that up earlier. You were talking about relationships.
Absolutely. I had a good relationship. I believe that every youth in the system of care needs a good relationship with a caseworker. We just got back from Tallahassee in January, advocating for caseworker salaries to be raised above market value since it was below. That raises a lot of problems in the system of care for the youth because we go through caseworkers like clockwork. We have, in my experience with the system of care, I had 8 different ones. My last one, I had her for about 2.5 years. And she was amazing. They made a new department where they opened up. They had one person run all the extended foster care, over 18 people who are in foster care, and she still kept my case. She made a commitment to come and see me every 25 to 28 days. She made a commitment to help me, whether it was navigation through bus systems or getting me the driver's license manual so I can start studying for my permit, or she was there for me doing things that nobody really thinks about. Like with the system of care, I'm 23, I have a permit. Usually people get started on a permit at 15 because they're in a stable environment with their parents who, hey, you're 15, you're 16, let's start working on that permit. We don't get that. Yeah. We have to decide for ourselves when we're ready. And usually at 15, 16, we're not. We're in the system of care in a foster home that doesn't allow stuff like that. Of course, we don't have a parent to co-sign for the car insurance. We don't have all of that. So we can't even worry about that until 18. Yeah. So put in perspective of where we're at versus where a kid is at with a family who is able to be there to support them. We don't have the same supports. I believe that everybody should have a good relationship with a caseworker, no matter how long they are there, because social workers that are in our lives that will help us form more bonds with later therapists, with later mentors, and with later friends. They're the first people who we see going in the system of care. And they're going to teach us. If we are not really good at building relationships or being social, they're going to teach that to us. Yeah. So you got to be very careful about how you present yourself to us. Yeah. And exactly how deep you want to go into this commitment. Because it is a commitment.
Those caseworkers are also just people. Right, exactly. They're caseworker, it gives you like this image of like they're have to be tough and as nails and all that, but they're only caseworkers because they're not as tough as nails. So like they're people.
Yeah.
It's a cool thing.
Maybe it's a conversation for another session, but the whole element of vicarious trauma, people who live trauma through the lives of others, you're right, they don't wear capes and they're not resilient beyond normal means to endure that child after child after child after child. So, I appreciate that acknowledgement. And, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we are taking it to a new level where the feedback that youth were going through Florida's foster care system are now speaking up, talking about what caseworkers need to know about that relationship and the value of that relationship. And even in an industry where, unfortunately, there is turnover. Mm-hmm. But the turnover is not just about them moving on from an industry that maybe they had a passion for, but the disconnect in that relationship. I remember when we were up in Tallahassee, we were sitting with the delegation individually, the senators and representatives, and there was a moment that one of you all, I forget who said it, but it was a poignant moment about, do you realize, Mr. Senator, right, that these people have very, very difficult jobs and their wages are sometimes inadequate, but what is very important for people to know is not those factors, but the factor is that when they move on and separate in a relationship to foster youth, that's profoundly impactful. And we've got to be sensitive to that. So I appreciate that. But Angela, you bring up so many issues when you have these council meetings. There's a lot of structure, but there really is a lot of good dialogue that engages them to reflect on their journey, their purpose, and what can they make of, adversity, right? A lot of great people in life have gone through adversity and have, because of that, it motivated them to make positive change. That's what I see with you guys doing, making positive change. But how do you focus and guide them through that journey?
Yeah, I think it's, like you kind of work with them and find out what their interests are, right? And what motivates them. We kind of do that, it's not just a one size fits all. It's really individualized. Like, what do you want to work on? What are you passionate about? And then we'll work with them on that. And I think what John said too about what we've seen in other areas and even here is this tokenism, right? Like just get a youth because they have lived experience and have them go speak on a panel. But that's not authentic and it's not real and it's not sustainable for change. So it's to really work with the youth, which I was talking about with the leadership training, and to build the capacity, just like us, right? I mean, you can't just go and speak somewhere without having that capacity being built. And that's an ongoing process. So many people just think that as short term, but we do that all the time. We always need to learn and to grow. It doesn't matter how old we are, right? So I think that's important, is that long-term partnership. And we've been talking a lot about that, relationships, connections, partnership, but it needs to be on a long-term basis. You talked about that with the case manager, because we have to understand too that these young people, all they know is people leaving them, right? And there is a lot of insecurity and a lack of trust around that. So being patient, that those relationships take time and they take a commitment. And that's just not given, trust is earned. And there needs to be a lot of respect through that process too.
Can I ask any one of you, this experience has possibly sparked where you see yourself going into adulthood as an advocate, as an ambassador, if you will, of message. Has anybody thought about how far they want to take that?
So for me, it definitely has. In my younger years, I would say foster care was a very negative thing to me. In my older years, I'm seeing the opportunity that it created. I had an opportunity to live in multiple different places. So I had the opportunity to see multiple different families, multiple different little issues and multiple different things that people valued. And I started learning how to be able to look in it and say, hey, this is something I like, this is something I don't like. But this is also something most people don't like. And it allowed me to it gave me an opportunity to think for myself. And it gave me an opportunity to decide what the majority have issues with and what the majority have no issues with. And so in that, I've decided that I want to create a record label and motivationally speak based off of it, because there's not too many people that have had the opportunity to grow up the way I did. And some would say it's unfortunate, but at this point in my life, I'm not looking at it as unfortunate at all. People would be like, hey, oh, you don't have your mom, or you're in foster care. And to me, I'm just like, yeah, I'm in foster care. To me, it was never a issue. I always say that, but to other people, I couldn't look behind them and say, hey, how do you feel? Why is that so weird to you? Why do I look different to you because of that? Why do you immediately feel sorrow? And I started realizing they could not imagine not having that, but because they have that, they cannot imagine thinking for themselves or living on their, doing things their own way. They already have pre-instilled things in them. So I want to go and motivationally speak and kind of acknowledge that and make music that acknowledges that in our society, because I believe it really needs it.
Yeah. Wow. Well stated. John, what about your aspirations? How this has impacted?
Well, I don't have anything so deep, but definitely, since I've been involved with Angela, I've been able to learn so much from her, and it's really a need, I think, in the community is having people like those sitting right here before me. So I think that there's also a need for people with higher positions to understand the perspectives of us down here. So studying political science currently, and just came back from an internship in Tallahassee, interning for to Brevard County representatives. So I'm really interested in kind of marrying the field of politics and child welfare. So my end goal is to be with the legislative affairs team for the Department of Children and Families, and hopefully be able to convey that message as a former foster youth to the legislators and to the department's executive staff on what's really needed and what it's like on the ground level, and hopefully be able to maintain my connections that I'm making with community leaders and be able to rely on them to make sure that I'm having the most up-to-date and correct information.
Excellent. Ashley, you have to bring us home here. What is your aspirations and how has your journey influenced it?
Well, I currently work in an organization called Ready for Life Brevard, where we help unaccompanied youth and also foster youth aging out or who have already aged out in the system of care transition into adulthood. So if they need help with housing, we get them housing, any documents like Social Security card ID for them to start jobs. We do career pathways. We also have a GED fast track program. We also have a mentorship program. We partnered up with BYLC and Smile for Budgie. And also we have BFP board of directors on our board. And we do programs like the life skills and everything with them. But right now we have a mental health office room that I have my name all over. I want to be a licensed mental health therapist. I believe that I know how it feels for first 15 years of my life to not have one safe person that I can go to. And that is so critical. You need at least one. You need supports, but you need at least one. Somebody who's going to be there for you no matter if you're feeling happy, sad, no matter if you make mistakes, no matter if you make accomplishments. Somebody who will be there for you and support you. And I hate to put it this way, but deal with you. Because we all have to deal with life. It's 90% of how you deal with it. So, and I want to be that person to see it through and through. Usually with adolescents or younger adults, I still want to work in the mental health general and also substance abuse with child and adolescent psychiatry. I believe that is important for people to connect, to relate, and to form bonds so they know what they want and what they don't want. And so they'll be able to form boundaries and know exactly what that means or what boundaries are. So they're able to form self-respect and self-love. Because once you start with yourself, you can do it on to other people.
Amen. Well said.
So I want to be able to hand people the tools that they need to get through this life positively, whether it's pulling out silver linings or pulling out coping mechanisms. I want to be that person that they can go to and just be them and try to figure this out.
I want to just reflect on the fact that if anybody watching this thought that this was going to be the kind of conversation you would have with foster youth, does it not humble you? Does it not impress you? The insights here move me every day. And I tell you guys that all the time. And I know Angela can echo that.
Yes.
So I think I want to take a moment to wrap up with an opportunity for each one of my guests to leave us with something to think about. So much dialogue was shared. I think that there's much of a message to be left for those who are viewing this. If you want to leave something of a message, if you would, what do you think is important?
I believe that it is important for people to get involved or to help the youth who is already in the system and care get started on investing in their future. For example, if you want to get more involved or if you want to aid the youth or mentorship programs and Ready for Life Brevard located in Melbourne, you can go on their website, readyforlifebrevard.org, and you can fill out any applications. There's donation websites and everything. Also, we do collaborate with Crosswinds Youth Services. They do have transitional housing and a group home there. So we do work with kids from Crosswinds, which is located in Cocoa. Yeah. We also work with Brevard Youth Leadership Council. We do life skills and Smile with Budgie also. We do life skills at the end. It's the last Friday of every month. It's a Zoom meeting, which is you can either get the information from Miss Angela or you can go to Ready for Life, get the information from Miss Pamela Brest, the executive director. But I do think if it's weighing on in the back of your mind or heavy in your heart that you want to do something for us or about this or to volunteer some type of time or effort, please do get involved. Everybody who is already involved will appreciate your effort, and all the youth, we already appreciate that you would want to do this in the first place.
Thank you.
I think, that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child, there's so much truth to that. And I've really witnessed that firsthand being in this community, just really inspired by everybody's commitment to really make a change. And so I think that all agencies are needed because these are our children and our youth, and they're the future. So whether it's the housing authority or teachers or nurses, anybody can be a part of this movement and this collaboration. And I think this is really a critical point. I was just thinking when you were talking that I would love to see more people truly understand and embrace our foster families. Because I think there's a real stigma around that where people think that they do it for money. And now that, I haven't worked within child welfare here before until I started with you all about 4 or 5 years ago. And that is so the opposite. I mean, I have been totally inspired by these families that are doing this because they really care with love in their hearts. And I really hope that whether you want to be a foster parent or not, if we can wrap our arms around our foster families as well. I think this is really important. And also, if somebody's interested to foster, to remember that it doesn't, no matter how old a person is, everybody needs a stable, loving home. And so I really hope that people can think about that and think about teenagers that are within our system. And people think, oh, babies or children need foster homes, but every young person needs a loving home. And so I hope that people can kind of open their hearts and minds to that. And if you can't foster, you can mentor, or if you can mentor, support a foster family, and let's work together and wrap our arms around everyone.
Thank you, Angela.
If you don't mind, I just kind of want to add to what Angela talked about, because again, she has such insightful perspective on coming from the outside. I think as a young adult coming from the inside, I think it's very important that there's so many different walks of life, like Angela mentioned, that you can come from and contribute something. She mentioned nurses and teachers, but then you have, volunteers, guardian ad litems, again, the housing authority. I think there's all walks of life can offer something to a young adult, whether that be to a nonprofit like Ready for Life or directly to the agency, Brevard Family Partnership. I can see it on your shirt right there, Phil, if you don't mind me pointing that out.
Thank you.
Adoption, foster care, independent living. There's so many different avenues of child welfare to be involved. Even if you don't know what you can offer, just providing your person and your support, I think would be more than enough. And we don't have enough of that, I think, in child welfare. Thinking, again, getting to work across the state with One Voice Impact, I see that's an issue everywhere. And in Brevard County, I think we're very fortunate to have such great community partnerships. And I think we're a very unique example in that we are very involved in our community with our faith-based organizations, with our provider agencies. So really, again, fortunate that we're here in Brevard County, but this is something that's an issue across the state as well. So really just want to open everybody's minds and hope that they'll understand that and spread the word, like Angela said, and help kind of change that stigma.
Excellent. Wes, what are your thoughts?
I just kind of wanted to touch on kind of what Angela said about there's older kids and there's younger kids. Everyone wants the younger kids because, it's easier to make it feel like a family and someone you brought up. But the older kids, they need it too. Me and my brother, we were very different. After hearing me speak, maybe you think that, wow, foster care brings you out to this. And you know what? It did. But for my brother, it didn't necessarily do that because my brother, he's 3.5 years older than me. He lost his mother. We have the same mother. That's 4.5. I lost her at 6 months. So he had a sudden pull, a sudden major abandonment in his life that was never acknowledged and never actually looked at and treated properly. He sat in a household where that wasn't treated properly. And because of that, he outlashed and his cries for help were not acknowledged the way that they could have been versus me, the good child. They're in foster care. we're not all the same. We are very different. My brother is very different from me, and I'm very different from him. And I'm glad to be different from him, because we wouldn't be people if we were different. But all he needed was the same thing that I needed, which is really kind of funny when you think about it. All he needed was to have someone acknowledge the abandonment in his life, have someone stick by his side, and allow him to get that anger out. Because I feel that people believe that anger is a negative thing, but without anger, there couldn't be happiness. Without anger, you must have anger, and that's clear that something needed to change for him to be angry, and someone to figure out why he was angry. And a lot of people shy away from anger because in society it's not correct. It's not okay to be angry. So I think that the difference in us and how we handle things should be acknowledged. We're different because of how we personally handle things. And if you can acknowledge the similar emotions between the different people, you can have a great impact in their life. You can allow them to calm down or cheer up. Just by being you.
Angela, Wes, John, Ashley, I want to thank you all. I don't know how anyone seeing this can't feel emotion, and how anyone could sit idly by and think, is there a place in all this for me? And I do say to onlookers that if you're thinking about fostering, adopting, volunteering, or even becoming a caseworker, this is what the privilege of doing that can be about. There's no perfect system on this planet, but together we're processing it, this journey together, and we're realizing where the focus needs to be. And at the end of the day, it's not very complex. You've all reiterated today that, quite frankly, the journey is all about relationships. And I've heard twice the whole concept of self-love. And isn't that what adults want when raising kids biologically, through adoption, or through foster care, is to give them that sense of self, right? I think that's the seed of generations to come that will be healthier, and you guys are a part of that. And I'm grateful, Angela, for you all for sharing today with us. If you're interested in getting involved in foster care or adoption, or volunteering, or becoming a caseworker, go to brevardfp.org. There'll be someone there to guide you along that journey. Thank you.